Hi, so this is the second entry to my writing diary. Um, entry is for the 17th of January. It's 2023 now. So this covers I think it's about 3 weeks now. We've been away and various other stuff. So in that time, I have added 1,815 words to my draft, bringing the total to 19,697. So, about 10% more. I've added, equivalent of 10% the length to the book. Um, it's not as much as I would have hoped. I always imagined writing some great, 10,000 words while I'm away for this period. Um, you know, it still was good progress, and I finished, a scene that I was having some trouble with. Um, and I've kind of solidified where the plot is going in a way that I think um, sets up the rest of the novel well, and it won't cause me problems if I just keep going on writing. Because I wouldn't want to write the scene I finished poorly and then cause that problems for me later on. Um, and with that, there are two main points I have on this writing. So the first was the character arc, because in the book, my character arc and the main plot are very intertwined, and this scene really sets that intertwining up. Because it's the main character's reaction to sort of the explanation of the inciting incident in this book that defines where the rest of the plot is going and where the characters are physically um, going. And because of that, um, I this scene was very important to have a clear connection of like her thoughts, but also how that relates to her broader character. And I found that I could generally do the individual moments for the characters, sort of that thought process and development through the scene well for Oriana, but I think I would still like to go back and really make sure it's connected well to the rest of everything else, because there are some loose threads that will probably have to fix when I revise, because I don't think they'll fit in too well as I'm writing the first draft. And then the other thing for this bit, not the second point, but I just noticed as part of the character arc, was that I tend to condense like the thought process really close together. So she'll have realization one, and then two, and then three, in one or two paragraphs of introspection that are either right next to each other or close together. And sometimes I think that is a bit too fast, because I think it doesn't give the reader a deeper sense of the character. It works as in terms of the plot, but it doesn't, give it enough of a deeper sense. And hopefully that's something I will pick up more as I write and then be able to apply as I revise. And the second main point, is kind of related, um, but separate. And this is in my dialogue. I've noticed through I think about maybe 4 or 5 scenes of dialogue I've written so far, most of them are fairly short. And I think I tend to dialogue is this odd, funny thing because I really like description. So getting into dialogue sometimes feels weird. It's this jump into something else. And even though I've gotten more used to it, I think early on I really was trying to just get the dialogue done, just get it finished. I know what I'm trying to do with it. And I feel there's a bit of a dichotomy here in writing dialogue between like being clear about what's going on, so having the conversation make sense, both for the characters but to the reader, but then also having more subtle characterization come through in the longer span of a conversation. And this is why you could have a conversation that's not really too important to the plot, but it's still important because it gives characterization. But my conversations are almost never long enough for that. Um, and and the reason why that's become important is because the last two conversations I've written, I think aren't getting long enough for that. We're talking a few pages of dialogue for these, um, and so it's hard to tell whether I'm kind of being too direct with like my beats after the bits of dialogue, and that's kind of almost babying the reader a bit and not letting them get a sense of the character on their own, just through everything else and through more subtle means. But then at the same time, there's a limit to what I can do. A, because it's first person, so if Ariane was talking about herself, then she's probably going to be fairly direct, and that is part of her characterization. Um, so I kind of have that as a thing to sort of work and figure out. Um, yeah, there's a lot of figuring out when you're doing, writing for the first time. Even if, like me, you have a clear idea of like where the story is going for the first part, like it's not totally discovery written. All of the details and like the process of figuring out how different elements work, how actual real life conversation translates, dialogue on a page, all of these things, you really figure out as you go along, which in a way is good to know, but indirect advice is not helpful. But it's probably the biggest thing I could give you overall with the writing I've done so far. Um, so yeah, I think that will cover everything I've written. There should be some, at least one or two more videos in the next 2 weeks, and they'll probably be slightly shorter jumps of words, but because I'm with much better access to the internet now, I can get these videos done much more quickly. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.